Welcome, everybody. I can see we've got lots of participants starting to join. I think we're up to almost 100 already. We'll just give a couple of moments for people to join. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay, we're over the 100 mark, 101. Hit the ton.
Still climbing.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully everyone's got their Zoom updates done and everything they need. And I can tell by the names in the attendance that we have people from many different regions. So everybody's welcome. Okay, that's 2 minutes. Should we kick off, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we are ready. I'll just share my screen a bit. Yes, we're all set.
Okay, good stuff. I'm going to cover the first couple of slides and then I'll hand over to Brian. So I'll just say welcome to the standards release of March 2026. We have plenty time allocated, so we'll use as much as we need. And we're going to cover quite a few updates to quite a few standards. So you're joining myself, Thomas Redmond, part of the training development team. I'm seeing just the first slide there, Brian, maybe click forward.
It's a bit slow, sorry.
That's all right. Yes, so myself and Brian, we've been deeply embedded in all of these updates for many, many months and trying to get everything ready for release, which has not been stressful at all. So we're really pleased to have everything now live and available. And we're going to take you through all the changes now. So the plan is for myself to do some of the technical standards, and Brian's going to cover our safety and emergency standards. And then we'll have a little bit of sharing of some other bits of, around governance and support and things like that as well in the end. So let's just jump forward to see what we're going to cover. Here you can see the agenda. Lots of standards have been re-released with this update. And we've done some other changes as well that we're going to talk about. So we'll kind of highlight what we've done with training standards, which have refresher training. So there's a merging of initial and refresher standards. We'll talk about that. And we'll go through all of the, at a high level, we'll go through all of the changes that are critical to each of the standards. So we'll talk about basic safety training, which also includes refresher training. Advanced rescue training, again, includes refresher. Enhanced first aid, wind limited access. And on the technical side, control of hazardous energies, which there's been a lot of change there. The basic technical training standard, which particularly we're going to focus on the installation module. Blade repair has been updated, and there's been an update to the instructor qualification training, as well as a couple of other updates as well to do with support. We also have some supporting information, more than we maybe had previously with this release, and we'll kind of explain where you can get this support. So we'll talk about frequently asked questions and change logs for anybody that has certifications for these standards already. This is to support you in making your updates. And we have a new type of document we've called a technical bulletin. So the technical bulletin is something that's going to support you in making your updates. That's something we'll explain as well. And we're going to just focus you towards the next couple of deep dive sessions that we have focused on the safety emergency training, so BST and ART particularly, which have most change happening, as well as the technical standards, control of hazardous energies, and basic technical training installation. So we have some deep dive sessions as a follow-up. You can see the dates there, you can see the times, and we'll share those again at the end. You'll also see a QR code in the top of the screen. That QR code links to a place where you can submit questions. With this first webinar, we're not going to have a live questions and answers section, but we are inviting your questions to be submitted when you've had a chance to digest these changes. We will look for some of your questions, if you have any, to come in through that QR code, through the form. And when we do the deep dive sessions, we will then make sure that we capture those questions and try to provide feedback. So if you've got questions that are going to be relevant to especially basic safety training, advanced rescue training, control of hazardous energies, basic technical training installation, that's a great place to submit your questions. We'll deal with those in the deep dive session. That's the same link which you received with the newsletter. So we have received some questions already, and we encourage you to send more. So that's the agenda for today. Before we get into the detail of changes, if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to highlight everything that has been released. So this is what you will find has been updated with this re-release. And you can see the standard versions, which are now the current version. So we have basic safety training. The standard has been updated to version 20. And this replaces version 19 of the basic safety training and the basic safety training refresher standard, because we've merged those documents together, as well as making the other updates to the modules. Advanced rescue training is now on version 6, and that replaces version 5 of advanced rescue training, as well as the refresher standard, again, merging. Enhanced first aid is on version 6, which replaces both EFA v5 and refresher v5. Wind limited access has been updated to version 3. Control of hazardous energies has been updated to version 5, and that replaces both the COE version 4 and refresher version 4. And there's a lot of change there that I'm going to go into a little bit today and in the deep dive, which is on the 17th. The basic technical training standard has had a big update to the installation module, so that's now version 11 of the standard. Blade repair has been updated to version 6. The instructor qualification has been updated to version 2. And we also have an update, small update to the requirements for certification and requirements for training, which are now version 14 and 15, and that's supporting some of these standard updates. So there's not a huge change there, but there is an addendum, an amendment, which have been released. And so that's something that you will see as well on the website. So what we'll do, I'm going to hand over to Brian, and Brian's going to take us through a lot of the stuff that has been updated across these standards. So over to you, Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, what we'll start to see, Thomas already told us a bit about that. We have been merging the initial and refresher training, so it's now published within the same standard. So you will actually now find a refresher in a separate section within the standard, and that goes through all the standards that have been released now and been updated to one single standard. So that's a big change. So if you are wondering where you can find a refresher, you will actually need to look in the same standard for future use of that. Also, if you need help with that, all standards also now includes links to changelog and to the help center. So if you actually are in need, you can probably just click the link within the standard, and that will take you to the FAQ that will answer a lot of the questions. For all standards, the FAQs have been updated in an extent, quite a large extent. So you will actually be able to find a lot of information covering each standard just by clicking the link. So that's a huge improvement in the support that we can offer to all of you. So yeah, for why have made all these merges? All the merges has been done in just to make it easier for you where to find all the stuff and make sure that it is located. It can be found in one location. It's also a matter of making it easier for you to navigate through documents. Now you will only need to navigate through one document instead of two. So that's the main reason for merging all these standards. One of the big things that also been going on through all of it is that we updated terminology. So there will be a clear distinction between what is a module and what is a training type. And that has also gone through all the standards as a general update. So we hope that will actually benefit all of you and make it much easier to navigate and also to find the specific things. Now you know that every single standard also contains a refresher.
I might just mention one other thing relevant to this as well, Brian.
Sure.
With the refresher standards going away, they are still available on the website.
Yeah,
and they
good
will
point.
be available until the end of the grace period, which is 6 months. So although the new standards have merged, the old refreshers will still be there on the website until September. So you can still use them up until that point when they will no longer be kind of the main document.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and please, if anyone have questions about that, please use the QR code and send in the questions you might have, and we will go through a deep dive of everything, starting tomorrow morning with BST and ART. So the main changes to the BST is in regards to the working in heights, where we have made an amendment to the ladder use, and we're clarifying how and when reinforced ladder rungs may be used. So that's a new addition going on. It's also been aligned with the ART and advanced rescue training. So you'll see that references with fall arrests and lanyards and work position lanyards has been updated, and that goes through with references to both standards, so it aligns in terminology and in the use. Moreover, there's also been updates to the evacuation and rescue exercises within the working at heights. And when we get to the advanced rescue, there's also been a clear distinction between what is actually an evacuation and what is a rescue. So we will get more into depth on that as well. One of the new things to the basic safety training is the sea survival has had an update with the walk to work update. It's been in high demand from member organizations that it was included due to safety issues and some really bad incidents that's been having over the last year. So that ended up with an addition to the sea survival. It's a lesson 8. It's a 30 minutes addition to sea survival that is mainly on behavioral stuff, on how you should behave on it. It's not much in the practical stuff, but it can be included and is included within the practical stuff as well. But the lesson 8 by itself is a theoretical lesson that will cover all the generic things. It's a lesson that has been written in not in a specific equipment or motion compensated bridge. It's more of a generic standard, so it can cover most of what is met out in the industry. Beside that, the refresher training we talked about, that has been updated, so now it's included within the standards. So now you know you need to look within the standards to find the refresher. One of the new things that also has been going on for BST is that there has been a removal of working at heights and manual handling combined module. That's also something that's been removed from ART. We'll come back to that as well. So there's some additional content has been added to BST and some content has been removed from it. And again, tomorrow morning, there will be a deep dive into the specific contents and also moreover the specific reasons, and there can be a discussion. There will be a discussion on the reasons and the impacts and why all this has been done. So in regards to working at heights, it's been updated to the anchor point requirements. That's been something that hasn't been found in the standard previously. So that's been updated. It's also, again, been referenced throughout the advanced rescue training. All the terminology has been updated to reflect what has actually been used in the industry and what wording is actually being used out there. And we have cleaned up most of the standards just to remove old legacy terms or wordings or terminology that's history now. So all of these updates is mainly just to better reflect on how is the industry actually working now, and what's the best practices within the industry, and of course to reduce the incidents that has happened and try to reflect that what safety issues needs to compensate for that throughout the standards. Yeah, I think that's it for the basic safety training. That's the overall changes that's been going on. It may sound like it's a small change, but it's actually a lot of change going on. And also with the addition of the walk to work, that is a completely new lesson that's been embedded in the standard. You have anything to add to that, Thomas?
Nope, that sounds good.
Then we'll cover the advanced rescue training. A lot of changes has gone into advanced rescue training, and I will try to cover them at a higher level. One of the first changes we looked at was trying to simplify a structure for ART, and also trying to combine the single rescuer, which always has been like a problem child because it was a standard that had that was never refreshed, and we were trying to look at how could we actually embed that within the training and covering all the learning objectives while still being able to have a high quality on a single rescuer part, and at the same time maybe look at removing it as a single standard by itself. When looking at the number of training records being done for the single rescuer in a worldwide global scale, it's been minor in terms that I can't remember the specific number. Thomas, maybe you can, but it's quite a small number compared to the initial training of ART. We also look at trying to align all the durations for the course. Oh, maybe I should just mention that now you will find that the ART has changed in the terms of that single rescuer has been removed, and now we'll have an ART H and an ART N, and ART HR for the refresher, and an ART NR for refresher as well. So there's 4 modules only for ART now, and now single rescuer as a single course or a single standard by itself. It's been retired. The alignment and durations, we managed to put all of it within almost the same duration. So the initial courses are now 12 hours, counting to 1.5 days, and refreshers is 1 day. So if you're going to deliver that as a package, it will give like 3 days of the initial training and a 2-day refresher if you're if you're going for the entire package. Every single, both the ART H and the ART N now have a single rescuer lesson embedded, and that's a practical lesson. There's a very small theoretical part to support the practical stuff, but there is a minimum of 90 minutes of a single rescue application within each module, where you'll find the majority of what is covered in the old single rescuer content. So that's being completed embedded within the ART H and the ART N for both of them. So you'll find that as a single lesson within those. One of the other new things is that working at heights and manual handling has been completely decoupled and retired from it. So that will mean that it will no longer be recertified in ART, and that was mainly and only because we wanted the focus to be on advanced rescue as an only thing, and not using the time on working at height and manual handling for staff, because that was a prereq for each of the advanced rescue courses. So that's been retired now and is a legacy. One of the big things within working with art was actually the technical cleanup. The working group found that there was a lot of old historical terminology and technical things within the standard. So all the entire standard has been cleaned up in terms of wording. Zip lines, tramways, and tension lines has been removed and now is taught as a cross-hauling technique. According to the equipment that is approved for it and according to instruction to use. So that means that the equipment, the working group had some concerns on that we actually had in the standard that you could do a zip line training with, as most equipment is actually not approved for that. So there's also a technical cleanup in terms of the equipment that should be used for training is also approved for that specific exercise. So that's just the main reason why there was an anonymous agreement on that needed to be retired from art in general. In terms of patient handling, we have made a new and updated annex to that, so that will cover transfer boards and cervical collars. And that's mainly just to reflect on the best practice being used within the emergency field, medical field, and moreover, just to make sure that cervical collars is not used routinely, but it needs to be used when actually there's a specific use case for it. You can read more about that. There's a complete annex on that, and we also made a more strict reflection on that the boards are not to be used as a vertical lifting device. So that actually says now it's stated within the standard that you can use it for that. So overall, it's been a cleanup in terms of timings. The refreshers are brand new within art, so this time it doesn't just say you need to repeat the initial training. Now it's actually a separate refresher course that's you can find within the art standard. So it's been divided in. So now you actually have the full standard for the refresher as well. So everything has been updated in terms of technical stuff, wording, lessons and learning objectives, timings for that, while we have stayed true to having embedded the single rescuer and removal of the working at height and manual handling. I think that covers the majority of what I just can remember from that. Thomas, can you have anything to add to that?
No, I would say, why did we make these changes?
Yeah.
One of the big driving factors in our analysis, if you remember, we kind of looked, Brian, at refresher numbers, and we found that the use of the art refresher modules, the hub and the nacelle refreshers, was very much lower than we would expect.
Oh, yeah.
And we thought there was two driving factors, and one of them was this single rescuer as a separate qualification that does not expire, as well as the duration of the refresher training we could see was excessive. It was actually the same duration as initial training, despite only being two modules, where initial training you might get 4. So I think this is a good change, and it will create a lot of benefit to encourage the uptake of refresher training, especially for providers.
Yeah, and also as a note to that, there's actually quite a flexibility within the timetable in favor of the practical training, because that's always been an issue. We need more time for the practical stuff, and in the future we also need time for the assessment part. So it actually there's been left a good amount of time in terms of the practical stuff and practical exercises while we were cleaning up the timetable as well. So I hope that all of you will find that very beneficial, that we actually have found some extra time to practical exercises throughout art, and that counts for for both modules and also for the refreshers.
Mhm.
I think that's a very good and needed change that we found at time for practical, even though we actually have made the refresher and alignment and made it a bit shorter.
Yeah.
So I think that was a very good exercise. But I think I covered most of that here in terms of why we have been looking into it. We needed a clear portfolio, so now it only covers the four, the art H and the art N, and HR as a refresher and NR as a refresher. We have covered that the time schedule for it has been changed, so now the art H and art N is a 1.5 day, and the refresher is only 1 day to cover the content for that. The technical stuff, just to repeat that, the only reason and the reason why the tension lines and zip line has been removed were due to the technical stuff, that we couldn't find any support and that equipment were actually directly approved for that. And the working group had a subject matter expert within this topic as well. That can be a lot of religion into that, but it was found that it was needed, and we couldn't endorse any equipment used that wasn't approved for what we actually put into standard. So that is the main reason why this has been removed from the standard. In the future, who know if the manufacturer comes up with equipment and it's going to be approved, that it probably be entered into standard again. But for now, it's the reason why it has been removed. And for the patient handling, it needs to be just to enforce that cervical cause is not a thing that routinely needs to be applied, and the transport board needs to be used in the proper and approved methods, and not for vertical hoist, for example. And so that has just been very much more specific put into the standards. I think that was it for art, and we will cover, of course, there's other changes as well, but we will cover that for the webinar tomorrow. But this covers the high level stuff and the main changes for art.
And we might mention at this stage, Brian, that for existing training providers and for participants who have training records, for example, single rescue records,
let's go with that.
There is an impact, and we've given a lot of supporting detail in the technical bulletin, which will explain in depth what is the knock-on effect for existing participants with records and training providers with certifications. And of course, you'll cover more of that in the deep dive, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. There will be an impact specifically for those who actually have the single rescue report. But yeah, the technical bullet will direct you to support in that matter as a training provider or as a participant who would actually have a single rescue certification. So the technical bulletin will be the place where you can actually read more about that, and we will also cover it in the webinar tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Enhanced first aid, well, it's going to be a very short one because there's been no content change to enhanced first aid. The only change has been the initial training has been merged with the refresher. So now the refresher is found within the enhanced first aid training. But I can also share with you then IFA has been scheduled for review in later this year or start of the next year. So content-wise, there's no change at all to it. The only change is that refresher is found within the standard itself for IFA version 6. So that's the only change to this standard. Can you help a bit out here, Thomas, with this?
Wind limited access. So I suppose the change here is minor, but there were changes that were enacted to work at height, and those are reflected in the wind limited access, because of course this standard also includes some kind of mirrored lessons from the work at height module, And so the relevant changes and updates around ladder use also appear now within the wind limited access. So this is just keeping the wind limited access aligned and consistent with the BST work at height. So the equipment lists, terminology, all of that is aligned. So we're just trying to make sure when we update one standard where there's a dependency in another, that we don't leave behind a forgotten standard. So I wouldn't say there's significant change
No.
to this standard, but it reflects what we updated with work at height in terms of correct use of ladders and anchoring when working on ladders. Yeah, so this is an alignment piece. Have a look at it. If you're delivering wind limited access, make sure you're making your updates, but I wouldn't say there's a big change or a significant thing to worry about the update on this one.
No, I agree with that. It's very smaller additions that's going to the equipment list and mainly terminology and references just to align, as Thomas said, with the working at height stuff. That's the main.
Yeah. Okay. So COE, I'm now going to take us through the updates to some of the technical training standards, and I would say the change to COE is quite significant. We're now in COE version 5. So let's look at some of the detail. The COE standard was originally launched with 3 modules, and those 3 modules were the COE Basic Safety, the COE Electrical Safety Training, and the COE Pressure Fluid Safety Training. And those 3 modules all had a refresher, so 6 modules in total. What we could see with the COE standard and the modules was that we had very poor utilization, low uptake by industry, and we did a deep analysis to understand why. And we learned a lot of things speaking with our members and our providers that do use COE. And so we've made significant changes. The big change with the COE is the restructuring to remove the COE Basic Safety module from the standard. But that training finds a new home in BTT. I'll talk about that in a moment. So what is left with COE? In the COE standard, you have 2 modules that each are refreshed. So that means COE has the electrical safety initial training and refresher training. It has pressure fluids initial training, pressure fluids safety initial training, and refresher training. And each of these trainings have been reduced in duration at the initial training level. So what we did there is we looked at the initial safety, the initial electrical safety training, and we managed to bring that down in duration to a single day. So it now fits within 8 hours. And we think that will make it much easier to organize logistics for this program. And we did that by focusing on the level of the participants coming to training, where you're making a progression from your entry-level training that you do as part of BTT, the COE Basic Safety, which also would lead into electrical safety. And we now have a new term and a name for that, which I'll mention in a second. We're calling that one Hazardous Energies Basic Safety. And so recognizing the entry level of the technicians into the electrical safety, we managed to reduce that duration. We haven't changed the duration on the refresher training for electrical. On the pressure fluids module, we also managed to reduce the duration slightly there, bringing it from 7 hours down to 5.5 hours. That we think will make these modules more attractive to organize within the training week and to deliver them to participants, more suitable for members. So it's not a huge change to the content, but it's recognizing that participants come with lots of skills and knowledge from the prerequisite training that they will bring into these modules. And rather than repeating things they already know, we're going to be using what they know and applying it when they do their COE training. So that's resulted in more efficient delivery with a reduced duration without reducing the quality. The other big I'll just go back a second. The other big change there is an alignment exercise. So we did a lot of work to update the regulatory alignments. So NFPA 70E in North America is completely relevant to this training, and there are other relevant regulatory standards in the EU and in the US, both for electrical and pressure fluids. So you will find an expanded reference for cross alignment to local regulations. Of course, we cover some regions. Europe and the US are highlighted, and in your region, you will still be required to make sure that you're meeting the local regulatory compliance requirements and updating terminology to fit where you deliver training regionally. But we're trying to support that as much as we can. So there's lots of improved terminology, more cross-reference to relevant supporting legislation and regulations and good practice. And that applies to all of the modules there. The basic safety module, so the course code was BASC. That module, as I say, is removed from the standard, and the content has found a new home in the basic technical training standard. So we've migrated a module into the BTT standard, and we have updated the name in the course code. You will find BTT Hazardous Energies Basic Safety with the course code HEBS in the BTT standard, the updated BTT standard. So if you're an existing provider, you will, if you're approved for basic safety, you will now be approved for delivering the Hazardous Energies Basic Safety. So there's a seamless transition for existing providers. The big change with that module is that it moves to BTT and it does not require to be refreshed any longer. So that's now an enduring training like other BTT modules. And we think that will also make attending electrical safety and refresher, as well as pressure fluids safety and refresher, a lot easier to organize, less logistical challenges, and it just makes more sense for the members and for the providers. So quite a few changes there. This is something we'll go into in more depth in the deep dive technical sessions. And the technical bulletin also gives a lot of supporting information about the knock-on effect and the impact to implement these changes if you're an existing certified provider for these modules, or if you're an existing participant with training records. So there's some changes there happening. For example, if you have existing certifications in your window records for basic safety, those currently expire. And so we're implementing an update so that they will be converted to enduring training records. The technical bulletin explains it in detail. And again, we'll go into this in more depth in the deep dive session. I would welcome questions. You've got the QR code, so please send us in any questions that you might want answered on this. Let's go to the next slide then, Brian. Yeah, so what is the impact? As you can see, just overall impact is reduced duration on electrical safety, reduced duration on pressure fluids safety. COE Basic Safety moving across to BTT is now called Hazardous Energies Basic Safety. And with that change, we were able to remove some of the duplication. There's a lot of existing duplication between COE Basic Safety and the BTT Mechanical, Electrical, and Hydraulic Safety lessons. And so now for participants that have done those BTT modules, they will not need to repeat that training content if they attend what used to be Hazardous Energies Basic Safety, what used to be COE Basic Safety, now Hazardous Energies Basic Safety. So it means that that would go from 4 hours down to 2, although it can still be delivered as a standalone training of 4 hours. It means that people doing a package of BTT training can get a lot done in a week, and we've designed it so it fits into a week alongside other BTT modules. Again, we'll go into this in a bit more depth in the deep dive. Yeah, the big benefits are the removal of duplicated training with BTT Mechanical, Electrical, and Hydraulics. The change to an enduring training record when you complete the Hazardous Energies Basic Safety. So you don't need to continue to refresh that after initial training. And then just making it much easier to attend and refresh electrical and pressure fluid safety without having as many things that you need to juggle with the COE Basic as you did before. So quite a lot of change there. The technical bulletin will support you. The frequently asked questions will support you, and the change logs will support you, and we'll talk about where they can be found at the end of the session as well. Okay, let's go to the next topic. So another module which has had significant change is found in BTT. So we have updated the BTT standard to version 11, and the module which was having the review and update was the BTT installation. So BTT installation has changed significantly. Previously, we had the BTTI module, and that has now been retired. It has been split into two new modules, BTT installation mechanical and BTT installation electrical. Why have we done this? Well, really, we did this because we recognized in the registrations of participants that the BTTI module was not doing as well as we knew that it should. It was not being applied by enough members. And one of the reasons that we could clearly see in the analysis was the prerequisites, which were extensive, the duration of the training, which is quite long, and the collecting together of mechanical and electrical installation skills, which are suitable for a multi-skilled technician, but may not be suitable for all profiles. So there was an appetite to make available a separate training for dedicated mechanical installers and dedicated electrical installers. For example, in North America, there's issues with unionized work where you may not have the option to have the same worker doing both types of installation. You may have a separate profile for an electrical or a mechanical or a non-electrical installer. So this change is going to support different options for training delivery where you could do a dedicated electrical installer as opposed to a multi-skilled installer. You could do a dedicated mechanical installer, but you still have the option to deliver the kind of traditional BTTI program. And we have a special timetable to do a combined delivery where you cover BTTI mechanical and BTTI electrical as a single training. And so for existing providers, it's not a huge change really to how you deliver your training because you can still deliver that program very much similar to what you've done before, but now you have two other options for those customers where they want the electrical and mechanical separate. We have managed to reduce the training duration somewhat, and it gives just more flexibility, more options for delivery. Of course, there is going to be an impact. The technical bulletin is going to give a lot of support for existing providers about how they go about making updates and changes. We've designed things to reduce the impact as much as possible in terms of auditing. There will be no extra auditing required. If you have the BTTI already on scope, you will still have approval for BTTI mechanical and BTTI electrical. We've also structured with the training quality assurance team how the auditing is to be applied to make sure that this doesn't increase the scope or duration of auditing. So these will be audited as a single unit, even though they're technically two modules. So that's something new. The technical bulletin will and the deep dive session will go into this in a bit more depth. For legacy record holders, so participants with window records for BTTI will continue to have that on their records, but they will also be awarded the BTTI mechanical and the BTTI electrical training record. And that will just sort of future-proof everybody who has in the past done BTTI training so that in 5 or 10 years, they will have still a record which is recognized because in the future, BTTI mechanical, BTTI electrical will be the two window records that are awarded, which can be done separately or together. And so we just wanted to make sure that anybody with the old records had the equivalent. Let's go to the next slide there. Yeah. Here you can see a snapshot from the annex of the standard. So in the back end of the BTT version 11, you will find a special annex which highlights how to deliver the combined version of the training. And you can see the total duration of 960 minutes. So a lot of work went into maintaining that duration, within the 960 minutes to make it easy to deliver. You'll find that timetable at the back of the standard. So you now, within the BTT, have two modules: BTT installation mechanical, BTT installation electrical, 1 day duration, 1.5 day duration as standalone training, but still being able to deliver as a combined module where you cover both technical disciplines together, and there's a special timetable for it. So yeah, much more flexibility for different types of profiles that you might want to train. And one of the big benefits, I suppose I should highlight, if you're doing the BTT installation electrical, you have a much streamlined prerequisites, because previously you would have to do BTT mechanical and BTT bolt as prerequisites in order to take your installer training. Well, now if you're a dedicated electrical installer, you can go and do your BTT installation electrical without the bolting prerequisite or the BTT mechanical prerequisite. So as well as having another training option, you've gotten rid of that excess prerequisite. So again, a lot more options for different types of technicians in different regions. And again, as I said, the technical bulletin has a lot to support you with the change as a provider or as a participant with your understanding your impact, your training records, or your certifications. But as I said, no extra auditing. We've designed this so that it's minimal impact for existing providers, and new providers as well won't have to do 2 audits for this. You'll do 1 audit to get both BTT installation modules. Okay, I think that's everything to say about the BTT. Brian, we could move forward. Blade repair. Okay, with blade repair, we haven't made huge change, but there is some change to talk about. So blade repair version 6, there was a piece of legislation identified in the review and analysis of the blade repair, which we which required us to make an update. And so this is related to chemical substances, hazardous materials that you work with in blade repair. And so, as well as a piece of EU legislation that we might be familiar with, the REACH, REACH legislation, there is other legislation globally as well outside of the EU. So this has been the focus of the update. So blade repair has now been better aligned with relevant regulations pertaining to the use of chemicals. There's a new lesson focused on compliance, proper compliance locally in your region with chemical substances and working with chemicals. And that's supported with the practical elements as well. So practical elements have been updated with correct best practice to align with the requirements of regulations and legislation. There's an element which has been improved in the standard, particularly focused on spot painting. So two-factor component paint is something that is now mandatory in the exercises, and that's a typical work activity that we just wanted to, in the work group, that they wanted to make sure that that was a focus and that was covered properly in the training. And as well, to support this addition to the standard, we have an extra work instruction, and that has been expanded to support training providers integrating this theory topic to your practical. So it's just giving you a bit more support in designing your practical exercises to include proper protection when you're working with chemicals and disposal and storage of chemicals and that kind of thing as well. So have a look if you're a blade repair training provider at the update. Not a huge update, but important that that's something that you look at as well during the next 6 months before the end of the grace period. Okay, that's all I've got to say, I think, about the blade repair. That covers the technical training standards, I think. We have a deep dive session where we'll go into more detail. You'll see the dates in a moment. And the final standard that we have updated in this release is instructor qualification training, which is now on version 2. So what can I say about instructor qualification training? The focus of this update was an exercise in taxonomy alignment. Here we work to ensure the assessment criteria and the learning objectives of this standard were better aligned. So we have a GWO taxonomy, and we talk about constructive alignment or the alignment triangle, where we want to make sure that your training activity, you're teaching towards objectives that you're then assessing against those objectives, and these things all work in harmony. And so there was a review exercise completed, which has given us a better alignment between the assessment criteria and the learning objectives. One of the big changes I would say here is a removal of learning activity, which previously was specified in the standard with a high level of detail. So really, the standard was directing how you deliver IQT training, which has changed. So now you have much more flexibility in how you decide to deliver your learning activity, and that's supported by this alignment between the learning objectives and the assessment criteria. So it gives you more flexibility and a more rigorous, reliable outcome of your training. And we think this is an improvement. We understand that people delivering the IQT training are experienced and good at what they do. And this gives them a bit more flexibility in how they go about delivering learning to their potential instructors. So IQT and IQT crossover, IQTX, these have also been aligned more closely. So participants are now assessed with the same assessment criteria. And this was a change where we wanted to ensure that no matter the route that you got qualified through, that you reached the same level and the same outcome. So if you're doing the IQT program or you're doing the crossover IQTX, you might travel a different path, but you arrive at the same location with the same assessment criteria. And to support that, you can see a teach back session added to the IQTX. So this is a mandatory teach back session, and that is sort of reflective of what's applied in the IQT program. Again, it gives more support to making sure that you arrive at the same destination no matter the way that you travel. IQTT has changed. Significant change there is the removal of the validity period. So that provides an enduring training record for all these instructor qualification modules. And that's a big change. And so that allows you flexibility in how you maintain competence over time. So again, a bit more flexibility. You still have to make sure people know what they're doing and maintain competence over time. And you now have more flexibility in how you go about doing that. Let's go to the next slide. So what is the overall impact? We have a stronger alignment between IQT and IQTX. We have more flexibility in how you go about delivering your programs. And we have a more robust way of ensuring that everybody arrives at the same outcome. And that's captured through participant performance assessment forms, which have been included in the annex. So you'll see these are quite similar to the participant assessment forms used in other, let's say, industry training standards. But these are specific to the IQT, IQTX, IQTT. So have a look in the annex for those as well. And we think these are going to benefit you as an IQT provider. We think it's going to improve the training impact. It's going to mean that your instructors, no matter how they have arrived at their qualification through IQT or IQTX, are able to receive the same impactful training. We also think this makes the standards easier to use. It reduces the administrative burden. We've improved kind of comprehensively the way that the taxonomy is structured within the standard to make them easy for all users. The participant assessment documentation is better aligned with the requirements for training to make sure that's fully compliant and that you have robust records. We think overall this just supports the industry, which is evolving to improve the way instructors are developed. And when we improve how instructors are developed, we improve how all of our participants are trained across all of our standards. So this is a nice benefit. And if you've got questions about IQT, go to that QR code, submit your questions, and we can cover those during our deep dive sessions if anything relevant is there. But we do have a lot of support to help you with these updates. So let's talk about the supports. We have made quite a few changes to how we support the updates to standards, and you'll find them in a few different places. So frequently asked questions, change logs, these are much improved. And we also have a technical bulletin which will explain kind of what it is and how it's going to support you. So let's look at the frequently asked questions. Oh, sorry. Well, let's look first of all about where we can find support. So on the website, in the publication section, all of the standards are, as always, published. Any of the standards that are going away in 6 months, so which are those are the refresher standards which have been merged into the initial training standards. Those are still available, and they will be for the next 6 months grace period until September 10th. And that means that you can still find them where you always find them, but you'll be directed towards the kind of single page in the future, which will have the initial and refresher together in one standard. And in the Help Center, if anybody's not familiar with the Help Center, in the Help Center you can find frequently asked questions about the standards, and you can also submit questions to our Zendesk inquiries platform. And so you can get a response from the support teams, and sometimes it'll get passed through to a project manager, even some of the subject matter experts that have helped to develop training standards. So the Help Center is there to support you. If you're not familiar with it, go onto our website, click in, and you'll find lots of frequently asked questions about all of our standards to support you. And you can also submit more questions and get a response feedback there. Let's go to the next slide. To make it more visible and easier to find, we have added a couple of things to the standards themselves. So the change log is now embedded as a hyperlink in the standard. So when you open up a GWO standard, you have a section at the start where there's a change log, and it gives you a high-level overview summary of change. We have given you much more support now with a fully detailed change log, which is embedded as a hyperlink. So when you go to the section 3 in each of these standards, you'll see a summary change log, but you'll also find a hyperlink. If you click, it'll bring you through to a link on the GWO website, and you have a fully, very detailed change log, which takes the old version of the standard and the new version, and across every single item that's been updated, shows you the change. So this will be really useful for anybody in a training provider setting who is updating lesson plans, work instructions, risk assessments, presentations. From certification bodies perspective, it will help auditors. It will help you prepare for audit, and it will help you when you're going through your desktop and your site audits as well. So have a look at the change logs. They're very detailed, so you need a magnifying glass. You need to zoom in because there's lots and lots of change across all of these standards, and everything's captured there. So that's a big change and something that'll help you with managing implementing updates. The Help Center is also linked in the standard just to help direct you to where you can get support. So in section 7 of each standard, you have this section using the standard to develop training, and you'll see, just as you do here, a little note. If you go there and click on it, that will bring you straight to the Help Center, and that'll just hyperlink you. The same place I showed you on the banner of our website is now linked inside each of the standards. As well as that, we have beefed up the frequently asked questions. So there is more detail about the types of, with support on the types of questions that we expect to receive and that we have received in the past. So I think you can find more support there than ever before. And of course, you can get live support by speaking to the team, submitting a question. Let's go to the next one. Even more support. The GWO Technical Bulletin. So this is something that we haven't released previously. We made a lot of change with this update. As we've highlighted, a lot of standards change, merging of refreshers initials, some things like the COE basic safety, a module moving to a new standard and finding a new home. And so existing providers will be wondering, okay, what happens certifications? Is there an impact on my auditing requirements? What about legacy training records for my participants? So to support you, we have put a lot of supporting information and detail around all of these changes, around all of these kind of governance issues into a document in one place, and that's the technical bulletin. So this was released along with the standards. We did identify a small discrepancy in the content, and so we've released it as version 1.1. So I believe when it went out with our initial newsletter, it was version 1.0. The version that you'll see on the website is version 1.1. That's the current version. It's a very, very minor tweak where we had a typo in one of the module course codes. However, this document can be found where you download the standards. So when you go to download the new COE or the new BTT, you will also be able to download this document. I would encourage you to use it to navigate these changes, especially if you're an existing training provider that has these modules certified already. This is going to support you in your questions about auditing, about changes to course codes, about changes to legacy training records, or anything else. So please use it, and don't hesitate to ask us questions if you have any questions. Here you can see on the right-hand side, the Help Center. That is, as I say, linked in the standards. Go in, explore the Help Center. You can ask questions, and you can probably find answers to the questions that you have. We've tried to preempt the kinds of things that you might wonder about. And so do go in and do explore the Help Center. You'll see on the top right, training standards. When you click into that, you'll see the various standards where you can explore questions about specific prerequisites, specific issues around everything that's relevant. So lots of extra support to try to help you with your implementation. And finally, we're going to support you more with deep dive sessions. So let's just go to the last slide. Here you can see our schedule for further sessions. We recognize that the basic safety training with the changes to refresher training particularly, and modules in general, and the changes to advanced rescue training, there's a lot of change there. So we're supporting you with 2 deep dive sessions. These deep dive sessions will be covering the same thing in 2 different times, just so that we can capture people in different time zones. So March 13th at 9 a.m. and March 16th at 3 p.m. Central European time. This is when we will explore BST and ART in depth. So I think, Brian, you're going to tackle that one.
I will. Yeah, I will look forward to questions and support you in any way you may need for BST and ART, starting for tomorrow and again on Monday.
And I think you maybe have some of the other team members joining for that one.
Yeah, Thomas Grönlund will join. He's an expert for the BST, so he will take care of all the questions for BST, and I will mainly take care of ART and some of the working at height stuff.
Fantastic. And I think if you had any questions about the changes to IQT,
oh yeah,
good chance to have a chat with Thomas Grönlund at those sessions as well, since he's kind of been leading the IQT updates.
Definitely.
The other sessions that you can see, March 17th, 9 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. We will explore the technical training standards and the changes to COE and the changes to BTT installation. And if you have questions about blade repair, that's the perfect place to ask them as well, although there's less change to that one. And so if technical training is your focus area, you're welcome to join us for either of those sessions. It will be the same session in 2 different times. We will go through COE and BTT, and the difference with these sessions, they will be open and interactive. So today we've tried to navigate you through all the change, direct you to where things have been updated, and invite you to submit questions. Your questions, we hope, will come in and be answered during these deep dive sessions. So you can see the QR code here. You have a link in the chat. You also have the same the same link in the initial newsletter that you received with the update of the standards. So please do submit questions if you have questions. The deep dive sessions will look to answer those questions, explore in full depth the updates, as well as the impact and how do we implement things We will explore some detail of the technical bulletin to support you with making changes to your, well, what is the impact on your existing approvals, etc. And yeah, that will be an open kind of a session, so we'll have more of a chance then to invite you to ask questions live and interact with us during the session, and that's the plan. So I would hope to see people join either or both sessions for the safety and emergency training or the technical training, depending on what you deliver in your training center. Apart from that, Brian, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think just at the same time, really want to throw a shout out to many of your training providers and to the subject matter expert and members that actually supported all the release, went through the changes and supported us developing the product. A big shout out for the continuing support on our work. So, and we'll look forward to meeting those of you who are in need of support and a more deep dive into art. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the same thing, that we've made a lot of changes which we think are going to make standards that the training providers use easier to work with and easier to use, as well
Yeah.
as improving the training and making it more suitable for different types of participants. And it took a lot of work. So apart from our team and SMEs who helped us with the technical content, we have had a huge amount of support from our training quality assurance team and our compliance team and our communications team and our IT department and everybody else as well. So it's been a huge amount of cross-working to get all of this together, and so we're really pleased that we've managed to do it, and we hope that it's going to make things better for training providers and better for participants and members.
Definitely.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you all at deep dive sessions, and please do submit questions so that we've got everything covered that you might have to that you might wonder about then. There will be a recording available as well. I will just say as a final thing, the session has been recorded, so there will be a recording available that you can share with your colleagues after the fact in case anybody wasn't able to attend today. And I think that'll be sent out as a follow-up to today. Okay, I think that brings us to the end. We've covered all the updates, and we've more to cover in those sessions coming up.